There's a moment every man must face, a moment where the truth hits so hard, it shifts your entire perception of relationships. That moment is when you hear her say it. I don't need a man. On the surface, it sounds harmless, maybe even empowering. But beneath that thin layer of independence lies a belief system that quietly poisons respect, partnership, and trust. You see, there's nothing wrong with a woman being strong, capable, and self-reliant. In fact, a man of substance welcomes that. But when her strength is used as a weapon against connection, when it becomes a banner waved to dismiss your value as a man, you need to pay attention. Because that's no longer independence. That's pride. That's ego. That's a wall built so high no love can climb over it. A stoic man does not argue with such a mindset. He does not beg to be seen. He sees it clearly for what it is, a red flag. A quiet announcement that says, you are unnecessary here. And if a woman cannot recognize the worth of a good man, then she is not ready to receive one. Period. This kind of woman will challenge your decisions not from principle, but from a desire to prove she doesn't need your guidance. She'll treat your presence as something optional, replaceable, rather than as something sacred. And slowly, day by day, your masculinity will begin to shrink. Not because you are weak, but because you stayed too long trying to prove your value to someone who refuses to acknowledge it. The Stoic doesn't fight for approval. He walks away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. He doesn't hate her. He simply knows his time, his energy, his life is too precious to waste on someone who's at war with what he naturally brings to the table. So if you hear those words, I don't need a man, take a breath. Look her in the eyes, and then take a step back. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every woman is worth saving, especially not the ones who've already decided they don't need what you are. Because you, my brother, are not here to be needed. You are here to be respected. She tells you, my ex was toxic. And in that moment, your instincts as a man kick in. You want to protect. You want to be different. You want to show her not all men are like that. But pause, breathe. A stoic man doesn't just hear words, he listens to patterns. If every man in her past is toxic, what does that say about her judgment? Or worse, what does it say about her accountability? You see, when a woman constantly plays the victim, she's showing you something more dangerous than a broken heart. She's showing you a broken mirror, one that reflects everyone's flaws but never her own. And if you ignore that, you'll be next. Not because you're abusive, not because you're cruel, but because she needs a villain to justify her inability to grow. A high-value man doesn't chase the illusion of rescue. He sees clearly. He sees that a woman who's still entangled in past trauma, yet unwilling to take responsibility for any of it, is not ready for something real. Not ready for balance, or truth, or growth. Only ready for a new stage to replay the same tired script. The stoic man doesn't argue with her narrative. He doesn't rush in to fix or to prove. He observes, he listens. And when the story's always, he did this, he hurt me, he ruined everything, with not one moment of, here's what I learned, or here's how I've changed, he knows. This isn't a healed woman. This is a time bomb with a sweet smile. You deserve a partner, not a project. You deserve someone who sees pain as a lesson, not as a weapon to wield. And if she's still living in the shadows of her past, unable to own her role in her own life, then she'll never be able to stand in the light with you. Walk away, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because when a woman tells you everything was someone else's fault, she's not warning you about them. She's warning you about her. And a man who respects himself does not enter a story where he's already been cast as the villain. He simply closes the book and starts writing his own. When she says, I need a man who can handle me, it might sound playful at first, almost like a challenge. But the stoic man doesn't take every word at face value. He looks deeper. Because underneath that phrase isn't flirtation. It's a warning. She's not saying she wants a partner. She's saying she wants a man who will tolerate the chaos she has no intention of taming. She's not looking for harmony. She's looking for endurance. And the real question becomes, why would a man of value ever sign up to be tested rather than respected? Let's be honest. A relationship isn't a battlefield. A man shouldn't have to handle a woman like a wild flame he's constantly trying to contain. That's not strength. That's surrender in disguise. The Stoic understands true masculinity is not proven through how much dysfunction he can endure. It's proven through calm, through boundaries, through walking away when peace is no longer present. When a woman tests you, not to build intimacy, but to provoke, it's not love, it's ego. And too many men fall into the trap. They believe enduring the storm proves their loyalty, that surviving her moods, her games, her constant need for dominance means they've earned her affection. But here's the truth. If a woman only loves you after you've proven you can handle her, she doesn't love you. She loves control. And that's not a partnership. That's a performance. A high-value woman doesn't need to be handled. She knows how to handle herself. She brings calm, not conflict, collaboration, not combat. And when she challenges a man, it's not to test his tolerance, it's to elevate both of them. So if she says, "Can you handle me?" the Stoic response is quiet and clear. I don't handle women, I build with them. Because a man who knows his worth doesn't dance for approval. He doesn't wrestle for control. He simply stands, firm still, unshaken. And if that's not enough for her, he walks. Not out of pride, not out of anger, but out of principle. Because a man at peace with himself refuses to be at war in his own home. When a woman says, "You're insecure for thinking that," something subtle but dangerous is unfolding. It's not just a dismissal, it's a deflection, a carefully cloaked way of avoiding accountability. And for the Stoic man, this is where awareness must rise, not emotion. You see, a man who expresses a boundary, who communicates a concern, who calmly questions something that doesn't sit right, he is not insecure. He is self-respecting. In a world that increasingly tells men to stay silent or risk being labeled controlling, the man who speaks his truth is rare and valuable. But when she uses the word insecure, what she's really trying to do is shut you down. Not through reason, not through dialogue, but through shame. It's a test. She's watching to see if you'll backtrack, if you'll stutter, shrink, apologize, if you'll trade your values for her approval. And too many men do. They doubt themselves. They start thinking, maybe I'm overreacting, or maybe I'm the problem. And just like that, their voice disappears, their standards dissolve, and their power slips quietly through their hands. But the Stoic man, he doesn't flinch, because he knows it is not weak to want clarity, it is not insecure to need respect, it is not controlling to seek honesty. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't argue, he simply listens, and then he watches. If her pattern continues, if every boundary is met with mockery, if every concern is turned into a character attack, he knows what must be done. He walks, not out of pride, but out of purpose, because he understands this universal truth. A relationship where your voice is silenced is not a partnership. It is a prison. A woman who respects a man doesn't weaponize shame. She engages with honesty. She meets concerns with compassion, not condescension. So when she says, "You're insecure for thinking that," you don't explain. You don't defend. You look her in the eye and with calm strength say, "No, I'm not insecure. I just won't settle." And in that moment, you become untouchable, because a man who won't betray himself is a man no one can break. Other men want me. Those 4 words may sound harmless, even flattering, but to the man of substance, they echo like a warning bell. It's not just a casual remark. It's a move, a test, a power play. She wants to see how you'll react. Will you flinch? Will you lean in and compete? Will you chase? Jealousy is the trap, and the average man steps right into it. He scrambles to prove he's better than the others. He puffs his chest, floods her with validation, tries to reclaim her attention. And in doing so, he loses the one thing that truly keeps a woman drawn in: his centeredness. The Stoic man doesn't bite. He knows who he is. He doesn't fear competition because he doesn't compete. Why? Because he chooses. He leads. He knows that any woman who feels the need to compare him to other men doesn't fully value the man he is. And a woman who truly respects you would never try to make you feel replaceable. Her value isn't proven by how many men want her. Yours isn't determined by how hard you're willing to chase. True respect begins when both people know they're free to leave, but choose to stay. So when she tosses that line, other men want me, you don't react. You don't get emotional. You simply smile and say, good for them. Because you understand something she doesn't. Attention is not affection. Desire is not devotion. And validation from strangers means nothing compared to connection with someone who sees your worth without games. The truth is, a woman who constantly brings up other men is revealing a deeper truth. She needs external attention to feel secure. That's not love. That's not intimacy. That's noise. And the Stoic man lives in silence. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't argue for his position. He remains calm, composed, and unbothered because he knows that the man who needs no approval can never be manipulated. So let her play the game. You're not in it. You're standing above it, watching from a place of strength, clarity, and self-respect. Because in the end, the man who's willing to walk away is the one she'll never forget. Real men do this. At first it sounds harmless, maybe even flattering. But if you're not paying close attention, you'll miss the trap hidden in that phrase. Because when a woman says real men, she's not describing virtue. She's issuing an instruction, a command, a form of emotional blackmail wrapped in false praise. She's not celebrating masculinity. She's trying to control it. You see, the Stoic man doesn't bend to trends. He doesn't let his identity be defined by someone else's needs. He knows that masculinity isn't proven through compliance. It's forged in clarity, purpose, and discipline. And anytime someone tries to manipulate him by questioning his manhood, he recognizes it for what it is: a tactic, a game, a test of control. The average man? He folds. He scrambles to meet her expectations. He starts adjusting his behavior, lowering his standards, and sacrificing his values, all to prove he's man enough. But in doing so, he gives away the very thing that made him valuable in the first place: his autonomy. A woman who respects men never needs to shame them into action. She communicates, she partners, she values strength, not obedience. When she says real men pay for everything, what she's really saying is, serve me or you're not a man. When she says real men tolerate strong women, what she may mean is, accept my chaos or you're weak. That's not respect. That's conditioning. The Stoic man doesn't flinch. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't try to prove anything, because he understands that real masculinity is quiet. It doesn't perform. It doesn't need applause. So the next time you hear someone say, real men do this, don't argue, don't defend yourself. Just smile and walk away. Because the man who knows who he is never needs permission to be it, and the man who doesn't yield to manipulation, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he was the loudest in the room, but because he was the only one who didn't flinch when tested. If you don't do this, I'll find someone who will. She says it casually, like it's just a fact. But don't be fooled. This isn't honesty. It's a threat. It's a weapon wrapped in a smile, designed to test you, control you, and make you question your worth. A weak man hears those words and panics. He scrambles to please her, to change, to prove he's good enough to stay. But in doing so, he fails the test. Because this isn't about what you did or didn't do, it's about power. And the moment you fold, the moment you show fear, she knows you're no longer leading. You're following, chasing. The Stoic man doesn't chase, because he understands something most men forget. Ultimatums are not part of a healthy relationship. They are the death of one. If love requires threats, it isn't love. It's leverage. And a woman who leverages your fear of losing her is not someone who values you. She values control. A man of substance never begs to be chosen. He knows that loyalty cannot be demanded. It must be earned, and it flows both ways. So when she says, if you don't do this, you don't panic. You don't argue. You don't even flinch. You simply reply, then go. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of clarity, out of peace. Because you would rather walk away with dignity than stay in a place where your respect is held hostage. Understand this. A woman who truly wants you, respects you, and sees your value will never threaten to replace you. But one who does, she's already halfway gone. So let her go, not to teach her a lesson, but to protect your own. Because the man who is willing to walk away is the one no woman can control. And in that stillness, in that quiet resolve, you rise above the noise. You don't just become harder to break, you become impossible to replace. Conclusion: the quiet strength of walking away. In life, and especially in relationships, there comes a time when silence speaks louder than words, when walking away is not weakness, but wisdom. Many older men know the cost of giving too much, staying too long, or tolerating too often. They've carried burdens for the sake of peace only to lose themselves in the process. But the truth is, respect cannot be negotiated. It must be mutual. A woman who threatens to leave unless you comply is not building a partnership. She's testing how much of yourself you're willing to give up. And if you're not careful, you'll sacrifice your dignity for a seat at the wrong table. Stoicism teaches us to remain anchored in self-respect, not to react with anger or ego, but with clarity. When you know your worth, no ultimatum can shake you. You understand that love without respect is an illusion, and peace above all is a man's greatest power. So the next time someone tries to move you with fear of loss, remember this: a good life is built on strong boundaries, calm decisions, and the courage to let go of anything or anyone that doesn't value who you truly are. Because the man who walks away for the right reasons is the man who never walks alone in spirit.